Travis from the Weather Company here. I think when we talk about times of uncertainty, sit down, my friend. Weather. I mean, when you're thinking about what's happened over the last couple of weeks, oh my gosh, snow in Los Angeles, 80-degree weather here in Atlanta in February. Times are changing, and millions of Americans rely on the Weather Company and the services that you all provide. Applications that forecast, making critical decisions are all dependent on your service being there. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do at the Weather Company, and then how it relates back to this topic. And in particular, the point about resiliency, because that data is highly dependent.
Yeah, so I'm Travis Smith. I work at the Weather Company. I'm the chief architect and head of data and AI for the Weather Company. We scale our systems in order to keep everybody safe, whether it's a hurricane or storms or tornadoes. Weather is quite volatile, it's quite sudden. It's rarely we get a heads up on what's going on, minus maybe a hurricane, right? Kind of know that's coming down the Atlantic or the Gulf fairly quickly. And so we have to scale our systems very quickly to meet demand. We can hit our scale up to about 36,000 requests per second in our back end. In our front end right now, with this recent storm, we're at 15,000 requests per second. And so we have to make sure we know what's going on. And because we are so sensitive to the volatile nature of weather, we often know the nature of the internet before even our host does or others. Because of our observability and resilience, we are highly available across multiple regions around the world. We're in 7 or 9 different regions globally, and to basically serve everybody out there. And in order to do that, we have to be able to see the traffic on the back end. We have various tools that make it possible for us, things like New Relic, Databand, and Instana is the newest one that we started recently.
So observability, I think, when you think about automation, I picture a world where you're automating with the lights out versus automating with the lights on. And given your role as data and AI, it sounds to me, my friend, that you are the lights in your company, so people can see what's going on. And I always like to joke and say AI eats data for lunch, and then AI propels automation. So there's a real tight relationship. So can you talk about automation and how, now that you have data and AI, the precursor around observability, tell us a little bit about what you put in place. You mentioned a couple products.
Yep.
And then how does that translate over to automation?
So weather often is the trigger to a lot of automations. And so we have actually products that are weather triggers that help us do that. But again, without the observability of the data, from ingesting points, knowing who sends us the data. How many of you guys have personal weather stations or have been involved in personal weather stations at home or with friends or your school, your kids' schools, right? Some of us are weather nerds and we like that kind of stuff. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And we build those things, and those personal weather stations do actually impact our weather forecasting. And our weather forecasting computes every 15 minutes, and that's why we are the most accurate brand, and that's why we're the most trusted brand, because we constantly change our forecast in order to make sure that you have the right information at your tips to help you figure out what you need to do with your life, and also to keep you safe. In order to do this, Instana, for example, is a phenomenal tool that we use to marry what's going on in the back end with what time of the real user front end, and we merge those 2 data points together to really get a good picture of what is going on. Because there's plenty of things that can happen wrong between your browser or your mobile device and our back end. So that gives us a good holistic 360 view of what people are seeing as far as the data is concerned. And then we also have data back end. So it's one thing to have just observability of our systems and resilience. It's another thing to have observability of your data. So when the data comes in, at what point do you massage it, transform it, use it, and make it, clean it, whatever it is that's necessary to make sure it's ready to go for any downstream systems in a clean way, so you guys can act upon that same set of data.
So from an overall observability, data hygiene perspective, driving to that resiliency stand, how much time did it take you to kind of get from the beginning to where you are now? Give us a sense.
So we've been doing AI and machine learning since 1970 something probably, when we first opened our doors and did forecasting. And we've only gotten better. The tool sets have gotten better. If you go to our meteorologists, they'll use some Fortran sometimes and MATLAB. They got the old school stuff back there. And then you come to my team on the front end, you got the new fun stuff with the Python and the Rust and the R and so on. And the key, though, is to take their stuff, and we can't dismiss that legacy because there's so much value and so much scale that C code can provide on machine learning that the newer tools like Python even can't scale to that degree as fast as scale as C. You just can't beat that. And so the new tools, as great and beautiful and sexy as they are, they don't necessarily fit all the needs, and that's why the technology is always changing. And we adopt the new tools. We love the Python. I write Python. It's a lot of fun for me as well as because I got to dabble with the code to stay relevant. But we do this to make sure, again, that the data is safe and the data is good for the company and for all the people.
So let's talk about reactive versus predictive.
Yeah.
And I think for the first time this year, working with one of the banks that we work with, we worked with them such that they can make a commitment to their CEO that AI and ML will help avoid 50 incidents this year. And when you think about it, I think the world measures themselves from a resiliency perspective around mean time to recovery. And they're saying, no, we're going to use data, observability, and AI to avoid those incidents. So give me your perspective of that, and then where do you see that happening? Is that a 2023 thing, a 2020? What are the elements that have to kind of be put in place to get to that level of
So we have been investigating predictive analysis of our traffic ahead of time. And it is a quite large problem to have because we have our data flow and we can create insights off our our forecasting flow. We can create insights on what's going to happen to our systems based on that and kind of get a prediction, maybe a few minutes before the actual things happen, which is really good. The key for us, though, is using that similar technology to predict outages from a technology perspective and an infrastructure perspective and an automation perspective. So if we can predict those outages, then our HA can auto spin up. It can spin up an Ansible book. It can spin up a Terraform, some infrastructure as code, and spin up another region. The ability for us to spin up a brand new region outside of all the ones we already have takes 30 minutes. So we need that 30-minute lead time. If we can use that on our infrastructure, then that would just make things so much greater because 30 minutes for us is about $100,000 every minute, that is.
So weather company gets some telemetry coming in from weather data that, thunderstorms in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. You're telling me you're going to predict 200% demand increase on the rebooking application. You're going to write Ansible playbooks, spin up your OpenShift clusters, and you're ready to go before the thunderstorms arrive in Atlanta.
Right, we're not so much there on the OpenShift side, but we are definitely there on all the other things.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. Let's keep going now and kind of go from the as-is state to the to-be state.
Yes.
I know you and I are big fans of generative AI.
Oh yes.
So I'm just floored with some of the comments around like we're working on Cobalt to Java, so if you've used ChatGPT, so imagine not just, I don't know that we have a demand for writing new COBOL, but explaining existing COBOL and then saying, okay, can you convert it to Python or can you convert it to Java? I mean, this is real stuff that we have going on. Some of the quotes that we're getting are up to 80% productivity gains in developers. Now think about it. That means that on Tuesday at 1 p.m., your developer is done for the week. And okay, fine, 80% is a lot maybe. So what's the right number? It's not 10, right? So what's your view as a person who likes to dabble in code? Where are we with the state of the art in generative AI?
So I believe it's at least 50%, if not more, on my personal usage of it. Now my team and getting my new guys ramped up. So onboarding talent is extremely faster because they can say, everybody's got code that is not documented, either in the code or in the right documentation. Or it was done really well and that guy left or girl left and it's been a year since it's been updated. And so now you have to explain it again. So AI, generative AI, is extremely good with that. Now for the weather company, we're investigating so many different uses of generative AI. We're investigating usage of giving you guys smart messages, analyzing you as an audience and as a consumer, knowing that you're a working mother, so you may need to get that alert that snow's going to happen, the night before than the morning of. You may be a single parent, and you may need even more time to prepare because you have to call for a sitter and so on. And so, merging consumer data and with our weather data and any other ancillary enhanced data, pull those together to create a message that what you guys could use as an insight and to help plan your day, keep your day safe, et cetera.
Oh, Travis, so thinking like a chief automation officer, I think you've done a great job of that. So if I can repeat back, it sounds like, okay, start with data, turn the lights on. You guys are using Instana and are using that, I would say, significant demand coming in.
Yep.
The various properties that connect into the weather company. AI as a way to kind of now, with the lights on, see the data, correlate, make predictions. Yep. I love the notion of spinning up new capacity on the likelihood of a thunderstorm.
Yes. Yep.
And then the arrival of new generation AI. 50% is a big deal, productivity.
Correct.
And as you said, even if it's just documenting code and writing test cases, that's a big deal.
And it's not about replacing people. It's optimizing their skill, giving them opportunity to innovate somewhere else if need be.
Hybrid workforce.
Hybrid.
That's thinking like a chief automation officer.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right.